Talk about skill set physically. The two most underrated is pace and playing off of 2 feet.
And point out somebody in the circle and give them a compliment on something they did. And then we always end it with family on 3.
Anybody need training? Anybody need training? Training over here. Training going once. Training going twice. All right? I'm about to kick this dude out my workout.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Timeout with Sko. I have a really special guest today, Coach BK. He's from the DMV, has been a coach now for the last 9 years. He's worked at Copper Mountain JUCO as well as San Bernardino Community College. So I just wanted to thank you so much for being here today.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Man, honor, pleasure. I've been following you and love your work. You are definitely a gem to the game of basketball, so my pleasure to be here with you today.
Thank you. Well, talk to me a little bit just about your background. You're from the DMV area.
Yep.
You played in that area growing up.
Absolutely.
Talk to me a little bit about the culture of the DMV and the culture of basketball and how that differs a little bit, from the California scene.
Absolutely. Well, it's night and day. I'll be honest with you. Being from the DMV, I take extreme pride in it. I feel like it's the best grassroots in high school basketball in the country. We've been that year in and year out as long as I can remember, from just always having, on the boys and girls side, at least 3 or 4 top 25 high school teams in the country in the same season, like every year. So it's always just a powerhouse of just iron sharpening iron. And for me, it was just a blessing to grow up in that culture. So kind of growing up in the 90s, you're on the shoulders of some of the games like legends. When you talk about like the Adrian Dantleys and the Lim Biases, like people that graced our area, the Grant Hills of the world. These people played when I was a kid, right? So when it was my turn, it was like the legacy that you step into, like you're playing in some of the best basketball in the world.
Yeah. I think I talked to you a little bit before about Coach Bartley, who's also from that area and speaks highly about just the competitive nature in that area and and how that differs a little bit from that Cali kind of scene of basketball. Can you talk more about that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So it's funny because the DMV kind of, in a sense, to give Cali some flowers too, it reminds me of the area I live in, the Inland Empire. Because there's 3 or 4 cities that all kind of neighbor each other within a 40 or 50 mile radius if you drove it in a big circle, right? And they claim the IE, but there's an inner competitiveness from each city, right? Like the guys from San Bernardino, they not the dudes from Rancho Cucamonga, right? And the Rancho Cucamonga dudes, they not the Corona dudes, right? And the Riverside dudes ain't the Corona dudes, right. And they not the San Bernardino dudes. And then you got Moreno Valley, where Kawhi's from. So like everybody takes their pride, but in a sense, they all grow up playing with each other and against each other because they're within a 30, 40 mile radius. So that's how the DMV is. And me being from the Virginia side, I really had to have some dog in us because they always kind of, oh, y'all the suburb kids, like y'all, y'all got it nicer over there on that side of the bridge, right? So it was always that stigma of we had it better, we were softer, even though we were sharpened with the same basketball competitive games and leagues that they were all getting sharpened up in DC and Maryland. So it's all 30, 45 minutes, right? From Baltimore, it takes us an hour. So you're playing Baltimore kids your whole life. Richmond and the 757 where Iverson and all those guys are from, that's like a 2-3 hour drive, but the weekends, that's competitive games that we're getting as well. So it's just, it's really from 9, 10 years old, who are you? And, this is who I am type of mentality, right? So in Cali, I feel like it's saturated, right? It's spread out. I'm not going to say kids are overrated, but kids aren't battle tested. So you see like inflation and like kids' numbers and the internet, make it seem like a kid is this and that. But it's like you're doing that versus a kid that's an NAI or a Division II level kid. And yes, you are a 5-star, but when you got to go get in the Lions den with some other 5 stars, you don't have 39, 10, and 10, right? So It's one of those things where I do respect Cali because I'm serving California. California in a whole is one of the best basketball places. And when you go to the numbers, right, if you ever get a real Cali native, they're going to go to the internet quick, right, and start going through the superstars that's from Cali. And I'm like, yes, there's tons of high-level current talent on the men's and women's side that are California natives. But to say that they got punched in the mouth every single night, every weekend, from 10 years old through 18 years old, with talent everywhere you look, it's not the same.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up. I think grit is something that Coach Bartley talks about as well, and just how the environment's competitive. And, you know, something that you and I both share that I think is unique to this game as far as coaching is you coach and train, which I think you're the first guest that I've had on that does both. What do you prefer, and where do you think that you shine the most?
Well, I've grown a passion into the player development. And because it's just a unique journey with myself and with my client, we become family, right? We embark on a journey together where we're trying to achieve something special. And it's my job to pull the best version of you out of you, right? So I like that because in the team setting, not everyone is on one accord. So it's a different type of challenge, right? You got to get the right synergy with your group that allows the team to achieve the goal that everyone's trying to achieve. It's a whole lot of individualism that you got to get on the same court, and that's just a little bit more of a daunting task that can become draining because like my son's autism, he'll have progress and then he'll have regress in the same month. That's how it is coaching. Right. Like it'll be like, man, we played well Monday and Wednesday. On Saturday, we just laid an egg. Like, what's going on? So that's kind of how it is to me.
What do you think as far as coaching and training? Like, where do you see the value in both in what you do?
Well, I think the value is I get to impact people's lives. Right. That's the purpose. The purpose is coming into people's lives and leaving it better than when you left than when you came, right? That's my entire journey. For every room I walk into, I want to leave some type of impact. So when I train, it just becomes, like I said, more intimate. So I'm able to be there for the phone calls, the bad games, the good games. I'm able to give the praise, the criticism. Like yesterday, London Jones, one of my top dogs, my ace, she went crazy in the Big Ten conference semifinals. The night before, she went 0 for 9, 0 points, right? And it's like, I love being a part of that, like that journey, to be able to be her family and be able to be like, yo, Deez, you the best in the land, shorty. Like, you know what it is. Like when I know she's like, it just wasn't my night tonight. And then she responds. And if I'm not wrong, I hope she just won a Big 12, I'm sorry, conference championship against those Trojans across town. But those little small nuances of the journey as a trainer is what differs and what I enjoy the most. You know what I mean? Because as an assistant coach at the collegiate level, I'm doing a lot of just chopping wood, carrying water, putting out fires, personality managing, right, for the coach, the head coach, and just trying to kind of just make sure that I'm managing the mental of my guys because I do recruit them. So I feel the responsibility of kind of overseeing their journey when they come to my junior college. But I'm not as hands-on as I am as a trainer.
Sure. And I want to stick to the training side for a second. You've worked with both men and women, and I hate to like put you on the spot right now, but I've also worked with both, and I work with a lot of middle school boys currently on a daily basis, and then I have a lot of sort of that middle school, high school range of girls that I work with, and I can definitely tell you like my opinions about which one is easier to work with. But for you and your business, like which one do you prefer to work with, men or women, and why?
Yeah, so that's a great question. My preference, and I've gone on record saying this before, that my preference is the girls' game as a trainer, for sure. And the reason why is that it's a little bit more rewarding in the sense of me being a male, I can understand how certain things from the emotional and intimate side that you share with a trainer, a coach, a teacher, the guys are oblivious to it, right? To where a female athlete kind of brings you that loyalty, that reciprocation, that understanding of like, yo, BK spends a gang of time with me. Like he has a wife and kids, he has a family, like, but he's always there for me. He's spending countless hours in the gym. So it's always just a little bit more of a reciprocated reward that I always say with the girl side that I do love. And it's always a toss-up because I have people that are near and dear to my heart on both sides. But I do have a preference for the ladies game because I feel like it's more growth on the girl side, right? So I want to be a part of that brigade as this game grows on the female side. I think I have some of the best talent in the world that's in high school and middle school right now on the female side. So I'm just really excited to see where that side of the game goes.
Yeah, I love that you say that because for me, I think working with the women athletes that I get to work with, the one thing that I'll say that I notice, especially as they're younger, women listen way better.
Facts.
Way better. It's like not even a comparison. Like I can tell, a guy like, hey, this is what we're gonna do, and then immediately once I say like, hey, are you ready to go? It's like, what are we doing again?
Mm-hmm.
But like, the girls, they'll be like, yes, coach. Like they're listening, they're locked in, they're engaged, and I think it makes it more enjoyable, right? I think they also like have a level of humbleness of like, I know that there's still room to grow. I know that there's still room to get better, which I think sometimes on the boys' side they can feel as though they already know what you're getting ready to teach them or share or whatever.
Vulnerability is weakness.
Yeah.
Right? So as a man working with women, vulnerability in a space of a male that you trust is a beautiful growth because it's a space where usually, yes, you have very experienced and worthy female trainers.
Sure.
But when you have a male trainer, somebody that's accomplished and worked with other top male athletes, when you start investing in the girls, it was like a special connection where they were like, dang, bro, like you really locked in. Because I go to all my girls athletes games for the most part, if I can. Shout out to the ones that I don't, because some of them be on my head about that. But I'm at the game. I'm rooting. I'm on the baseline chanting, and we work on that. Let's do it. Like, and I just think that that's exciting because the girls need to be celebrated, and it's just one of those things where that is special. It's like a daddy-daughter relationship, and my daughter, and I know it's special because the synergy that you capture. My daughter has even said like the level of jealousy she gets in the sense of like, you my daddy, but I can see the connection you have with some of your female clients. And it's not really envy or jealousy because she knows I'm her father, but she just sees how special the connection is. And that is the best and the most rewarding thing ever. You know what I mean? Like, man, I really, shout out to my female athletes, man, for real.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about something, we both are trainers and coaches in the industry. Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest thing that people don't realize is how much sacrifice and time commitment that it takes for one, just to be a coach, right? A part of a team, whether you're assistant or head, like there's a huge time commitment piece. But same with training, right? Like you're training sometimes at random places, at random times. How do you balance, right? You're a father of 4, you're married. How do you balance your family life with your coaching?
Well, I would say I am the client and I have my trainers for that, right? Like I'm developing in that level of my game because that's something you can't perfect, right? I'm always trying to get better. My family usually gets the short end of the stick, which sucks. And it sucks because these are things that were told to me as I was getting into it. Right? A lot of coaches were like, man, your family gets a lot of the back end, bro. Like if you're going to excel at what you do, it's going to be a lot of time given to other people's kids and not your own. So you're going to get that backlash. You got to find a way to balance it. And when you hear it when you're at the front door, you're like, oh yeah, it's cool, it's cool. Like my girl understands, like, cause you know what I mean. My wife dated me as an athlete, so she kind of knows the lifestyle, the rip and run. So that was my arrogance in the beginning, but sure enough, as my kids continued to grow, it's easy when they were infants, right?
Caught up with you.
But man, I have a 16-year-old, a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 3-year-old. So from volleyball and high school musicals to you know what I mean, to daycare, learning our ABCs, I gotta be present, and that's something I can always get better at. But that's amazing because as a coach and as a trainer, you always look for ways to get better, right? We were talking about some coaches earlier off camera, like some coaches in today's era haven't evolved with the player and the kid that they have to coach, right? So I think as a father and as a trainer and as a coach, I have to always be evolving to what my time's going to look like, what my schedule is going to look like, what level of the game I'm going to be involved in, because those things demand different of you as well. Like the NBA and the WNBA, I nibble and dibble in that realm because if I'm a full-time NBA trainer, you know, somebody's going to call me and say, I need you to come to Boston. I need you to come to Orlando. I need you to come to whatever city I'm in for a week or two, or, you know, impromptu, and with a family, that's very difficult to you know, try to sustain. So just balancing that, man, it's a tough question to answer because you don't have an answer. You're just always trying to figure it out.
Yeah, you're just always trying to do your best. And I think the thing that really, like, and I'm speaking for me, just allows me to show up is having that support system, right? It's having the people in my corner, my partner, you know, support me, understand, like, hey, I'm probably not gonna be home until you're asleep tonight, or you know, and I'll go days without seeing my partner. You know, she's a nurse and you know, works these long 12-hour shifts, and I'm training late sometimes, or I'm leaving early in the morning, and so it really takes a community in a lot of ways to be successful at this job. And then our training community becomes a big part of our family.
Absolutely.
And I think that's, you know, special in itself.
Absolutely. And that's something I noticed when I first started watching your training. It was like family vibes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's funny because, and I obviously have given you your flowers before off camera, but like the thing I loved is at 38 years old, I wanted to train with you. You get what I'm saying? Like the energy of watching what you do, I was like, dang, I wish I still had some eligibility because just the way you communicate, the way you teach, and I can only imagine you're the same way in your personal life, just patient, communicate the best you can, and that's something I've had to master because in the very beginning, I'm just a worker. I'm an alpha male that just goes, protect, provide, go, protect, provide. So my wife would be like, okay, and just have to deal with it, right? Like, not even asking me my schedule anymore. It's just like assuming I'm going to be gone all day, you know? So, that's that work-life balance in this industry is something that we're always trying to evolve and get better at.
And I appreciate you mentioning that because, you know, every huddle when we finish at the end of every session, I bring everybody in and I say, you know, I want you guys to say one thing that you're grateful for and point out somebody in the circle and give them a compliment on something they did. And then we always end it with family on 3. And I think, you know, and I talked about this on one of my other episodes about how important it is to make the environment that you're working in comfortable, not just for you, but the people that are in it.
Absolutely.
And I think if you can do a good job at just genuinely caring for people, asking questions, trying to understand what their life looks like outside of just what they do on the court, that stuff to me always goes the longest way.
Absolutely.
And so I appreciate you just even noticing that.
Yeah, no, definitely. You're one of those ones. Like, you're one of those beacons in the community that I think you're going to do amazing things because your energy attracts, right? And the ones that hate not supposed to even be at the table. So I always say they hated on Jesus. So like at the end of the day, we're supposed to have our haters, but you're that beacon because you know your stuff, right? Very, very relatable. You communicate at an extremely high level. And I just think that's a need for women representation, right? On both sides in our industry. We just don't have enough that's top tier like yourself. So, man, I'm excited for the future.
Thank you. You know, when I first started in this game, I was super insecure about who I was. And I knew, you know, that I was a minority in this industry in a lot of ways, right? I was a woman and I was also small. And, you know, I did play, so I had that going in my favor. But, you know, I struggled. I struggled figuring out, like, how can I also be, you know, what we coined as valid, right? How can I be recognized and respected? Because I know that I've always been that player. I've never met the eye test, right? You look at me and you're like, not sure what she can do, right? And, you know, everywhere I went, I had individual success, I had team success, and did well. But I always had that little kind of person inside of me that always was still trying to figure out, like, who am I? How can I stand out? And I think as time has gone on, like you said something that stuck with me is, like, there aren't a lot. And I think that was the thing that I was bringing to the table that I was deeming as something that was a negative. But in a lot of ways, like, that's my superpower, is that I am different and I can bring a different perspective and a different personality and a different approach. And I think that's something that's very valuable across the board.
And I think that male athletes respond to you because it's a level of being able to suppress your ego when another man, especially if you didn't have a father around, which a lot of our young male athletes are dealing with that. Not saying, and I'm a big father advocate, right? Because I have 4 children myself. So shout out to all the present dads that's there, that's taking you to practice, rebounding for you, training with you outside of the stuff that they're taking you to. But there's a stigma because I also work in education. So there's a stigma where when you hold a young man accountable, if they're not used to that energy, right? It becomes like, oh man, it's very combative. It's one ear out the other. They're not even open to receiving the message. So I think there's a need because when you are used to a female energy, you naturally put your guard down.
Right.
And then when you get in there, it's like a Jedi trick. It's like you come in, it's like, oh yeah, but I'm just as qualified, not even more than the male counterpart. So now that you trust me, let's get better.
Right.
You know what I mean? Let me help you grow, right? So I think that's why you have a niche and you have a space that you're going to be able to continue to grow in.
Yeah, I appreciate that again. Talk to me. So I'm a player, right? I'm coming to you for the first time.
Yeah.
How are you evaluating me as a player?
Absolutely.
Tell me what you think the most overrated or not talked about enough skill that players should have, and what's the hardest skill to master?
Okay, I love that question. So depending on level, so let's just say high school, college, pro. Could we stay in that category just for the sake of the conversation?
Yeah, for sure.
So if we're in that level of client, I'm going to look at film, right? First thing, YouTube, Synergy, something. I'm going to pull up something just to see with my own 2 eyes what I think of you as a basketball player. Not with your dad, not with your coach, not with your Abe, none of that. I don't want to hear nobody else's opinion. I want to just organically see it so I could give a subjective opinion, right? And be able to really say to myself, how can I help you too, right? Because I'm not for everybody.
Right.
So long story short, I'm going to look at that film. I'm going to, one, see what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. Then I'm going to ask you, what do you think you need to work on? Because then that also tells me the mentality of the athlete, right? Because if you are like, yeah, I think I need to get my handle better, and I watch the film and you over dribble every possession, why are we working on your handle? You get what I'm saying? So these are things that I think players need to, one, evaluate before they go seeking help in training, because there's a lot of meaningless training that's going on right now where kids are just going and working on stuff that's not translatable, that they are not being taught how to translate. You're just working on a move.
Right, that they'll never use or don't know how to use in a game.
110%. So that, again, that's what you are top 1% in the world of doing, really, really articulating when and where and how, leverage and balance, the whole thing. So being able to evaluate that before you work with the athlete. And then I think that the most important skill set And I don't even know if you would call it a skill set, but I think talking and your presence, and I think they go hand in hand. What is your presence, and do you open your mouth? At the high school and collegiate level, which we want to be at those two elite levels to even give ourselves a shot to be a professional, right? That is a necessary component. If you do not communicate, and if you don't have a presence, a poise, a composure about yourself, just when you walk into the gym, those two things are lacking in a lot of kids, right? So a real good friend of mine, Travis Walton, he played at Michigan State. Like, he's one of my closest friends in the industry, and opened a lot of doors for me, right? So I'm one of the people that trains his son. Shout out to TJ Walton, one of the best eighth graders in the country. And one of the things that he's done with TJ, he's honed in presence. Like, son, what's your presence? Like, because the kid's so skilled, and he's been around the Steph Currys, and Draymond Green's his uncle. I mean, he's been around the Rich Pauls of the world. Like, he's an exclusive kid, right? So to him, he's just a 15-year-old, just a basketball player, just a kid who's like, man, at the end of the day, I just want to play. My dad just, has instilled work ethic in me. But one of the most valuable lessons he's given TJ is, what is your presence? This kid walks in the gym, he speaks to everyone. He then locks in, he does his routine, right? He does his warm-up. He has like a level of an energy about him. Right now, he hasn't played one high school possession yet. Hey, good pass, boy. Oh, that's a good shot, right? And it's like, he stands out before you've seen any physical.
It's a high-level skill.
A high-level skill. And then if we do want to talk about skill set physically, I think the two most underrated is pace and playing off of 2 feet. So those are my two things that in the last 18 months, I've been just honing in on all of my elite level athletes. Like, play off of 2 feet, give yourself multiple options, learn how to come to a controlled stop. They used to call it the Kobe stop, the stride stop, right? Like, really playing out of that. And then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's pace is just like alien, right? It's something we've never seen almost, or he just mastered it to where I think he's the best player in the NBA. So I just think those two are the physical, if I had to say, skill sets that an athlete needs to maximize and just master.
What do you think are the hardest skills to master, like the actual physical on-court skills?
I think another one is a skill, but is it feel, right? So that's what I say, like, what is your feel? Because the translation of what you can do in a workout without a defender and what you can do when you're in between the lines. And I always compare it to like the Tom Brady or the Patrick Mahomes, that quarterback 2-minute drill effect. Like, the player that has the feel of just like, I get wherever I want to get to. I know how to create opportunities for myself and my teammates in every single position I get the ball on the court. I know how to affect on defense. I know how to play the angles. I know exactly, like, that is a skill set. And it is physical things, but it's like a whole bag. Like, I get a chance to work with Draymond Green. That's why he's a Hall of Famer. If we were in the barbershop, people would argue, Draymond sucks. I'm like, man, are you kidding me? Have you ever seen the way this man, it's like watching Mozart.
He's
like,
amazing.
What? He is a mastermind playing the game of basketball. But because it's not the tween step back that makes Sports Center, you like, nah, he's trash. Like, yeah, okay. So that skill set is something that I think goes along with presence, goes along with talking. So it kind of correlates everything that I've been saying, but that's the hardest thing to master. You can drill somebody to their blue in the face, and I think with repetition, kids master physical stuff, right? The handle, the shooting, they master that over time.
Yeah, I've had this conversation with a number of people of like, can you teach feel, right? Can you teach, and a lot of feel is like IQ as well, like your ability to, read, but also too, like, I do think there is a point within basketball where a lot of it is like a sequence of events that are occurring.
Absolutely.
Right? So if you're in a side ball screen, let's say, right, you know that no matter what side of the court you're on, your reads are going to be the same, right? The first read is always attack. Your second read is your roller. Your third read is either your dunker or your opposite side corner. Then your last read is the opposite side wing. Now, the read part of it to me is like when you make that decision, but a lot of it is you're repeating the same thing just in different actions, different, positions on the court. And I completely agree with you that I think it's the hardest thing to teach.
Absolutely.
Even if you know the sequence of events that are going to happen, because you still have to be able to have the skill to execute that pass to get the ball there. You still have to know when to throw it, right? Or when the defense is, helping the helper. Okay, that means that this is happening and this person's open. So I completely agree. I think that's a good point.
I'll tell you a fun part of the game. Me being a coach and me being a trainer, I get to see that from the sideline sometimes. So the guys, shout out to my end of the bench guys, the guys that don't play that much that get to sit next to the coach, sometimes I narrate what's getting ready to happen on the court because I work with the players that are playing, obviously. So I would tell, like last night at the end of the shot clock, my point guard going in the half hits a three, and I called it 10 seconds. So at the 10-second countdown, I said he's going to wind him to sleep with a float, then he's going to punch, dribble, sidestep, hit the three going into halftime. And literally he did it, and they counted down. And my other point guard was on the bench in foul trouble. He ran up to him like, man, coach just said you were going to do that exact thing. And I was like, I understand his feel, his IQ.
Right.
I saw him setting him up, right? I was like, he's going to go to his go-to. So again, it's fun being on both sides of it because you can really identify that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let me give you a hypothetical.
Yeah.
So I'm a 4 or 5-star recruit. I DM you. I'm interested in training with you. Now, I don't bring up anything about pricing. And I come to the gym ready for my workout. What's your thoughts on training high-level players for free?
So, again, I'm on wax saying this again. I'm always going to stand 10 toes. I think that is crazy. And the reason why...
Has somebody asked you this already?
Oh, I'm a victim of it. I've done it plenty of times. Now, granted, it's a two-headed sword. So I understand their entitlement. I completely get it, right? It's like, yo, it's me. Like put me on your Instagram or something. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's what they think. But when they get older, they're going to realize that the one thing God doesn't give us back is time. So it's like, I'm spending this time with you that I'm not spending with my own children that I won't get back and they won't get back. So if you're getting ready to be a millionaire faster than I'm probably going to be a millionaire, there should be a level of some type of compensation because you're almost probably making close to $1 million right now.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I know several high school players that in the next 90 days going to change their families' lives, right? So again, I think it's disrespectful from the ones that are at that level that have already started to see some NIL benefits, that have agents, that have things like that, and they don't lead with the, hey, I'm going to compensate you. Because it just kind of shows like, yo, are you a user? Like, where's the humility in that? Where's the adults guiding you and saying like, hey, you take care of people that invest in you?
Sure.
Like, that's just one of those things that I feel like you should be raised with. But then again, I do see the entitlement of, hey, it's me, baby. It's the social media world. Like, you want to go viral, don't you? Like, post me on your Instagram. And again, shout out to every player I've ever trained as a high-level player that didn't pay me. Because there is a level of, I did get some credit, right? And that did maybe make a 10-year-old come train with me later on that month, right? But at the end of the day, I think that there should be a clear-cut expectation, which is where I have grown to now because I have been burned on the back end where I felt some type of way. And it's one of those things where my dad always said, you teach people how to treat you. So I never wanted to become like the guy known for the freebies, right? Like you give great work, but I'm just going to come get the work and not, do anything as far as reciprocate the appreciation. So I would right now just say, hey, what's your NIL look like? Are you signed to an agent? Like, what's your deal? That's my rebuttal to that DM. Like, what's your situation? Like, who you coming out here with? I just had a kid from Arizona DM me last night. Hey, I'm playing in the state championship versus Coy Pete. I'm moving to California the weekend after. I want to get in the gym. All right, cool. What's your situation? Who you coming out here with? AAU coach? Who's your handler? Like, what's the deal? What's going on? Because there needs to be, hey, this isn't for free. And at the worst, I'm bartering for like gear or something at this point. So like I'm doing the like, oh, you got to deal with Crocs? Cool, like, let me get some Crocs. You got to deal with Adidas, cool. I'm a 13, right? So we can get in the gym here and there, but I'm not going to be crazy accessible. Because one thing Travis taught me is high-level clientels and room that you get into, it gains you access, right? And access is very valuable. And a lot of times access is more valuable than the monetary gain. And it's what you do with the access. The problem is that 16, 17-year-old kids, they don't really get you a whole lot of access just yet. And they think that they do. So the family and everybody thinks that just being able to post them or just being attached to them that's not the same access as Draymond Green, right? Me helping Trav with Draymond. Like for my wife's 40th birthday, I'm sitting courtside at a Golden State game. Like that kind of access is different, right?
There's levels to it.
Absolutely, right? To a 17-year-old kid, what I'm getting the CIF ticket for free? Like, what are we doing? So it's just one of those things where I think they just need to understand their value, and then realize that you got to stay humble on this journey because you haven't made it yet, right? And $1 million isn't $1 million after you bought yourself an In-N-Out burger. So,
yeah, I completely agree. I think, that's a hard conversation to navigate, and you definitely have to have confidence within yourself to have those conversations, approach it in the way of like, hey, if you're wanting me to invest, like I also need you to invest. And, I think that's such a tricky topic right now because it's happening everywhere, right? We all want to, as trainers, work with the highest level players.
Absolutely.
But with that, what people don't talk about is everything else you just mentioned.
Absolutely.
And that's a huge part of it.
It's tough. It's tough because it's disrespectful and it's demeaning, right? Because we go up into a space where it's like, hey, I'm accomplished. And there's some gatekeepers in our industry, right, that they would never even halfway disrespect them with that type of approach. Mm-hmm. So I asked myself, like, at what point in my journey do I say, you know what, I've graduated, I'm not taking that no more. So we're not vouching with that. And I've lost some relationships with some people, and it was like a quiet exit, where it's like, yo, the rules of engagement, I get it. You were using me. With all due respect, I used you for what I could, and it is what it is.
Right.
Right? Because going forward, I see you don't see the value in coming to the front door with a checkbook in hand, because that's what I feel like I demand now, what my work has earned me now to be able to say, look, the proof is in the pudding. So that's another thing. Trainers in general, player development coaches, we're like smartphones. We weren't around like we are now in the 90s and the 80s, right? It's like Teslas. It's like we're the new wave. It's trainers everywhere, right? Everybody has a trainer. If you're a 4 or 5 star athlete and you don't have a trainer, it's like, what? You don't have a trainer, right? So like with that, it kind of saturates the business where some trainers step on the business principles, right? So it messes it up for everybody. So, I mean, this is a whole nother podcast episode when you want to talk about that topic in itself, just 5-star athletes and their treatment when it comes to trainers, the business of training, and the monetary gains that they are already receiving in the relationship between the two.
Yeah, I think it would be important to actually talk about the training industry
Mm-hmm.
and the culture of it, not in relation to, just the 5-star athletes, mm-hmm. but the culture of the training industry, the culture of social media and training, and just like, especially in California, just mm-hmm. where we are climate-wise without, rules and regulations, right? Like when I was in high school, I didn't have a trainer. Trainers didn't really exist at that point in time, and that was 10, 15 years ago.
Absolutely.
Now, everybody has a trainer. Even the kids on JV have trainers. So talk some more about the culture of the industry.
Absolutely.
And then also let's get into some of the social media stuff that mm-hmm. also plays a huge role in our day-to-day of, our job and what we do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I always say, if I had me, I would be just now about to retire from the league. Right? So I don't know if that's a little cocky of a statement, but some of my friends would probably agree with that. Right? From seeing where I started as a kid, like early on in my career, like really having someone that knows the game and is going to single-handedly be responsible for my development and walk with me every step of the way through my journey. So I think that we are extremely valuable But parents of this generation, because we didn't have that, they don't fully understand the value. So they utilize us, but then they also try to keep the leash of like, this is my kid, like da da da. And I get it. I respect it from a parent standpoint. But they don't understand, like, you can't do anything that I'm doing. I can demonstrate every single thing that I teach, right? And I'm going to spend the time, the effort, and have an extreme knowledge of the stuff that your child needs to get to where they want to go, which is going to change your life directly. I'm not trying to have a power struggle over power of attorney. I don't want to make no decisions here. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
But if you aren't valuing me as like an extended family member that needs to have the utmost respect and compensated when it's appropriate and when you can, right? Like that fractures the relationships. And then when you talk about just the importance, I think that's where you get these popcorn trainers. So popcorn trainers, I call them, are guys that probably got better after they actually played, right? Don't really have a big resume, but they might have access to kids through AAU organizations or working at different gyms or whatever the case may be. So these people will step on the game because they'll train a kid for free or for half the price that you charge, right? And then the kids and the family, because they don't understand the value once again, like if I'm training with Coach Sean, or if I'm training with Coach BK, like it's a high level chance I'm going to be at the top of my class, right? Because they're working with that level player, one, and they know what it takes to get me there, right? They will go to this person and just get posted on social media doing a bunch of stuff that they'll never do in a game. And that just completely just waters down the industry where you can't choose the real from the fake, where you get people that are even valid vouching for people that are whack. You'd be like, bro, how you like? But then you don't want to sound like a hater. So for me, I just try to stay in the lane of what's real and organic is always going to rise to the top. The people that need to know. The people that don't need to know, don't know. Right? One of my closest childhood friends had a tattoo when he was a kid that said, when we were 16, he got it. Or not, take that back, like 18. But those who mind don't matter and those who matter don't mind. Right? Like I always think about that as I've grown as a trainer. Shout out DJ Levels, one of my childhood friends. But that was a tattoo he got when we were kids. And I think about that like, dang, that's very relevant because the organic, real trainers, the real coaches, the real mentors in the game, they're going to rise to the top. The popcorn people, they come and go, but they mess us up when it comes to reputation, arguments, validation. Like it's too much, right? So I think it's on the families and I think it's on the real OG coaches to kind of come in and speak up on these things because you got to have pillars in your community that kind of validate like, oh yeah, Coach Sko is dope. Like she knows exactly what's going on. You want to get better at this and that. You want to be the best point guard around and know all your reads, go to her. She's got you. Right. With no hate, no shade. Hey, you want to get shifty? Hey, go over here to Dash or go over here to this trainer or go. Right. Like they specialize in that. And that's how I kind of got popular in the IE. Like being from the East Coast, the dads and the coaches were like, yo, he's going to give you an East Coast flavor. Because I don't play like a West Coast guy. Like just my bop and the way I dribble and the type of moves I teach, the hezzies that we teach, like we call the hezzy the hands up. So like there's a float, hands up that we do that like Allen Iverson and people that played in that area made popular back in the 90s that I brought to the West Coast. I didn't bring it, but I teach it when it's not taught, right? So it's just things like that gave me my niche, but who validates it, right? And I always say it comes back to the players. It always comes back to the client. It always comes back to the players. So when you think about trainers and who's who, I think the best players need to just pay the $5. Like my favorite episode of the Martin Show, like just pay the $5, man. Just pay the price because it's going to be reciprocated. You pay now to live like a king and queen later, right? And it's difficult though because even some of our pro athletes that grew up bartering and not really having to pay, I've had to say, hey, look, man, you make $20,000 a month. Like, you're only here for 3 months. If it doesn't make sense to invest in your game at least $5,000 in this 90 days, right, what are we doing? That's not even a half of your month's pay.
Right.
And you get paid to do this. So logically, right, if there's anything less, I feel cheated. I feel finessed. Like, what are we doing? So again, but then you get trainers that'll be like, hey, I got this league guy. I'm just going to let him come for free. For free in the league? For free and overseas? Like, whew, it's vicious. So I think the last two questions kind of segued into the same answer for me, where I think it comes down to the families, the kids, like, and then the gatekeepers to just validate who's giving good work, where you should go, and then celebrating one another, right? I can't train everybody. I don't want to train everybody. So it's like, send me who you think I'm good for, right? Like, there's trainers that I love referring. I love, and people do the same thing for me. Like, hey, listen, go to BK. This is what BK is good at. And it's to the point now where I'm like, hey, hold on, guys. Let's pause on the referrals for a second, because I really don't have I don't want people to think I'm flaking. I really don't have the time right now. But that's a blessing in itself. But I think the support of the real we need to like have like a top trainers like little summit every, you know what I'm saying? Like some little club union we are part of, where we just come and talk basketball and just celebrate one another, because the people that aren't at the table, they shouldn't even be able to trick people like they are at the table.
You know, I was having a conversation with somebody not that long ago, and I was kind of talking about some of the things that you're mentioning. And I do think that having some sort of association where we are vetting trainers, I think is the next step. I don't know exactly how to do that, you know, or what that looks like, but I do think that there should be some education behind or before you're able to just be a trainer. Absolutely. Like, at the end of the day, we are extensions of parents, we're extensions of teachers, right? Absolutely. We're working with the next generation. So it's important that the people that are working with the next generation, right, people that you can trust, people that are teaching your kids good things, not just on court skill-wise, but also off court.
Facts.
Right? And I would like to see something like that be developed.
It's going to take one of the big dogs.
I agree.
And it's going to take one of the big dogs to let go of some of their own enterprise to let everybody eat.
I agree.
And when I say that, like, again, the big dogs are like, you know, the Phil Handys and the Chris Johnsons, like those type of people that have the following, like the 94 feet a game, like going to his things and like watching what he does. Like Phil was like my Kobe in this, right?
Did you go last year to his event?
I haven't been able to make it yet.
Okay.
I've only seen the recordings and just clips and stuff.
You got to go.
I have to go.
He does a good job. Production-wise is great.
He's the GOAT. So having something like that, right? And then getting certified, right? And then being able to almost make this exclusive roster of trainers that now we at the Sports Academy, we at whatever facility, this is where all the pros come get sharpened up. And all the agencies are sending everybody there. And you got the top 10, 15 trainers in SoCal, because everybody want to come to LA or Miami in the summer, right? So you got all the NBA players like, yo, we go here, our agency and us kick up the bread, and you just pick your poison, because you got a curriculum in here. We working on whatever you want to work on. Everybody's trained by Phil, him and Chris, whoever. And it's like really putting together a conglomeracy of just elite work. And that's the dream come true, right? One, to even be considered to be a part of that table, but for something like that to even exist. Because sometimes as a trainer, we feel like we're spinning our wheels. And it's like, is there an end game, right? Like, do I just give this up and start selling life insurance or something? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what do? You know what I mean? So that's the thing. If you don't have a Draymond, right? If you don't have a CP3 or you know, any top guy, your life is month to month, season to season. You're hustling. You're like, I tell everybody, I'm like a tax, like an accountant. It's tax season, right? In the off season, pre-draft, spring and summer, that's when I'm booming. In the winter, it's like, anybody need training? Anybody need training? Training over here. Training going once, training going twice, right? You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where that type of just fellowship in our industry is needed. I think that we could really have like a legitimate agency of just top trainers. And it's like, yo, who's available? Just like you said your partner's a nurse, like a registered nurse. Like it's like,
it's a board.
Yeah, 100%. This person needs you in Miami this week. We flying you out. Boom. And the players just pay to be a part of the association because you know you're getting top level work, right? And then you got guys that have their day ones, and I always respect the day one stories where you have trainers that's been with their players forever, but there's not enough because there's a whole lot of bunny hopping going on.
Right.
Right? So.
Now, you mentioned, at different times in the year, training looks different. And, that's similarly to how my business looks, right? Mm-hmm. During season, it's always slow. It's always quiet. You're always like extra available for sessions.
Absolutely.
And then as soon as that March, April, May, June hits, it's like, you can't catch me.
Floodgates.
Right. Talk about, for you, if you are working with people at different times of the year, what does that look like as far as within your training, right? How are you training players differently during season, preseason, off season? Talk about some of the things that you focus on during those times of the years.
Absolutely. So I have philosophy. In season is team usage specific, right? And maintenance. So team usage specific training. How does your team use you? Where are you getting the ball on the floor? Where are you getting the ball in your offense? And then just our basic maintenance. So the basic maintenance may be ball handling, touches around the rim, floaters, spot shooting, just basic stuff. Get to your spots. That may be the first 30 minutes. And then everything else would be all action that's directly correlating from your team's offense in season. Out of season, that's when we add. So and that's another way you could tell when you see good trainers, in my opinion, when you see them training a kid in the heart of December and they working on something that they haven't done one time in 12 games already.
Right, it's not a shot that they're going to take.
It's like they're never going to shoot that right now. Right. Have you gone to their game? Right, so again, we started this a little late because I was so locked in on watching London finish out and get that ring, but that's how engaged you have to be in a client's journey to be able to see how they're being used. And then that also regains their trust for you because I can send her a text message right now. She's celebrating and I could be like, hey, I want that baseline out of bounds midi that we shot. You were fading to, you didn't get your balance. You pop off your toes, hold your follow through. And she's like, dang, she gonna remember the exact play. And it's like, yo, I love bro. He wasn't here in Indianapolis, but he watched every second that he could watch. He's supporting my journey. So now when it's time to be vulnerable in the summertime, right? Like last summer, it was vulnerable time. She was a sophomore going into her junior year, battling a little injury, really trying to have a breakout year. Right. So mentally, especially for female athletes, you got to be there. And really be an emotional support system on top of just being a physical trainer for them. So knowing how to motivate them, knowing how to praise them, show them love, and keep them encouraged is just super dope. So I love it, man. It's exciting.
Something about, your resume stands out, which is the types of players that you work with. You work with high-level pros on the women's side, on the men's side. You have Beck, who's with the Liberty now. You've worked with Draymond. You worked with Jalen Clark, who's with Minnesota. Yep. So you've worked with a lot of high-level players.
Absolutely.
Tell me how you keep them motivated and engaged during the summer. And it's different for women and men because of, when the season time is, but whenever the off season is for them. Players that are constantly practicing, constantly playing, constantly working on their game, how do you keep them motivated to improve?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I think, and I've been told, it's just my energy. So I'm kind of like the whisperer of a trainer. I'm the person who some of my clients just need to come be in the gym and just share the same air for a little bit. Because I'm always talking in analogies and, just putting the batteries in their back while we're working, right? So there's a level of I need to go to BK right now because I just need to get in a 2-3 week just grind of just positivity, high level energy. He's demonstrating, I'm sweating, I'm playing defense. It's just a different energy that they get, especially in the summertime for me. So I think that's why several players reach out to me and stay consistent because they just need that, right? And then there's other players who they need something different. where they've been getting trained a certain way and they've been kind of hesitant to come over. And then they're like, man, I'm going to just try it your way. I want to come see. Because some people want you to shut up while they train, right? Like, BK, shut your big mouth, bro. You talk a lot, bro. Shut up, right? So, like, somebody like Draymond, Trav prepared me on how to train with Draymond. So once Draymond was comfortable enough with me, I was able to fill in for Trav. And when I fill in for Trav, it's like I already know what Draymond wants. I know how he wants his workout to go. So I come in and just rock it. And then I try to exceed his expectations because I already have the base of what I know he wants to accomplish. So then I just try to put that on steroids when I go there. So he's just like, man, because he's going to check in with Trav before I even get in the car, right? And then I got to check in with Trav to tell him how the workout goes. So as a trainer, that's awesome because I'm being evaluated from one, a Hall of Famer, to a high-level trainer and a great friend of mine who I respect his opinion, and then myself. So I get all three, like how I think I did with the workout, what Trav's expectation was and what his report was as the lead guy, and then Draymond, a future Hall of Famer, somebody who I've seen be like, yo, he's getting the count wrong. Like, I'm about to kick this dude out my workout. I'll tell you right now, I just made 9. You just said 8. Like, you know what I mean? So Hall of Famers and high-level players, they have their particulars, rightfully so. So I just think that's a testament to how I can be a chameleon too, especially with the girls. Like, the girls is like, you got to be particular. You know, they have their preferences. Like, yeah, so it's awesome.
Yeah, I have an interesting story. I was working, and I won't name the name of who this was, but I was working in the summertime with a pro player, and, we were counting. And I was counting, out loud for them. And you know how it is. Like, they want to hear, like, what number they are, where they're at.
Yep.
And, one of the counts, I was, like, running to go grab a ball. So, they didn't hear it. My voice isn't super loud or whatever. And I remember, like, they made the next shot or missed the next shot. And so I, counted the next one out loud. And they stopped the entire workout and was like, that's not where I'm at. And it was just, like, quiet, right? Everybody's kind of looking around, and I'm like, no, this is where you're at, But it's interesting because those guys are so competitive. And they're counting and thinking about every single rep, every movement. And I think that's a huge difference from high school to me than pro.
Absolutely.
Is, like, at high school, you're really trying to get more so for me in my training, a quantity of reps, right? We're trying to get you comfortable with a specific movement. We're really, developing the skills. Whereas at the pro level, you're sharpening. At the end of the day, at that level, you're being signed because of something you can do, not because of what you can't do.
You're top 1% at one thing.
Exactly.
For sure. Yep.
And we don't want to see what you can't do.
Yep.
We only want to see what you can do. And I think it's just different, from the high school level.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's just like to kind of touch on what you were saying in just regards to, like, these players are also just very competitive by nature on their own. And you can really tell when somebody loves the game when they're thinking about, oh, you messed up my count, right? We're talking about one number. Whether I messed it up or not, I'm not sure. To this day, we didn't watch the film on it, but it just shows, like, that there's a different level to it.
Perfection, just in general. Attention to detail is just bar none, right? Man, I got to let the church say amen type of thing, because we both share that sentiment. Like, and the JUCO player or the high school player, they think I'm being anal when I'm like, that's not your number. Or like sprint. Or like the small little, you're not talking, we doing it again. You didn't pound the ball, do another rep. Like those little small things, they be like, bro, you're glazing right now, dude. Like, the kids let us say those little, man, you tripping, bro. You on one right now. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm trying to get you to that level, right? That's where you want to go?
Right.
Cool. Because I've seen Draymond in action. When he hit that 3 last night, the boom moment, I don't know if you saw the game.
Yeah, I watched it.
I've seen him hit 25 of those in a row. But at the barbershop, they say Draymond can't shoot threes. What? He's prepared for that. When he shot that, he was like, yeah, really, I could have been doing that. It's crazy.
He actually talked about that. I don't know if you saw, he was talking about how he went, I think he went to, like, a sports psych person and was really working on the mental component of his shooting. And he talked a lot about how it was really just the confidence that he was lacking in his shot. How do you help a player that's struggling, mid-season with their confidence? Because you're not obviously on the staff of all the teams that your guys or girls play for. So what sorts of conversations do you have with them when it's 5-6 games where they're not shooting well, or maybe they have a high turnover count and they're making the wrong reads, or they're making the reads late? What do those sorts of conversations look like?
It's really it's a life lesson at that moment. It's really just respond. Like, that's my thing. It's like, it's not always going to be easy. Like, you got to trust your work and you have to respond. Right now, the difference between you making shots and missing shots is in between your ears. It has nothing to do with what's going on in between the lines. It's all the way you're thinking. A thought becomes a thing. So because you've missed 17 of your last 19 attempts, you're like, man, I'm in a slump, right? When really in warm-ups, in preparation of the next game, in the next practice, in the next workout, you can retrain your thinking immediately in that space and stop that spirit from even growing or manifesting and getting players into slumps. So I'm big on like resending like affirmations and positive stuff to my clients throughout the year. Like if I see something, my spirit, I'm a real spiritual person, so I'll naturally just send a Bible verse, send a gospel song, send something, and then just a little word of encouragement, like, "Yo, you're the greatest." Like, me and London's little thing is, "You the best in the land," right? So when she sees that, it kind of takes her back to like being a sophomore, junior in high school, and me just like, I used to flood the internet with that. I'll be in the stands, "She the best in the land," like she going off, knocking shots down, 5'4", right? So for her, she could be in somewhat of a slump, even though she's fourth all-time UCLA history and counting as a shooter, but she has her slumps. So when she's in her slumps, it's kind of like, like, you the best in the land, shorty. As soon as you see it go through the hole, there she go. Dorothy found her way home. Let's get back to it, right? So it's just little things like that BK is known for hitting my players at the right time, right moment, and just that connection where they're like, I appreciate it, big dog. Let's get back to work. Because I take no credit. Like, God connected us on our journeys. That's why I tell every athlete, for whatever reason God brought us across each other's path, I'm going to serve my purpose for your life. And then in the moments that I feel convicted in my spirit, I always reach out. And it's times where players don't even publicly let it be known they're going through something. And I'll just randomly shoot them a, "Hey, big dog, how you doing? Everything good? Hey, you're the best in the world," right? Stuff like that. So
that stuff goes a long way.
Absolutely.
Talking and just sending short messages of encouragement, I think really makes a difference in players, performance and just how they're feeling, So I think that's a great thing. Last question that I have for you.
Absolutely.
What do you want your legacy to be in this industry?
Man, so in this industry, I just want to be known as the guy who literally embodied betting on yourself, right? Because that's my mantra, my handle is Bet on You, BK. So when I got into training, I left corporate America, and it was a leap of faith, right? So my journey with every athlete is, you're trusting me and I'm betting on you. And when we bet on each other, it's magic, right? So it rubs off. I got that from my dad. My dad was a songwriter, music producer. He came out here to California in the 70s and no musical background really. And he's Grammy nominated, right? He wrote Al Green, one of Al Green's greatest hits, and was on a bunch of different, like, a legend in the music industry, right? But he bet on himself. He left a job working at the county building in Baltimore, Maryland in the 70s, and everybody that knew him was like, "Bro, you crazy. Like, you just got out the war, you just got out the army, bro. Like, you got a good job."
Yeah.
He like, "Nah, I got a passion for something, and I'm going to bet on me." So that happened 15 years before I was born almost, right? So it's one of those things where I feel like that was in my DNA, in my makeup as a person, to just take a leap of faith and have an unwavering belief and faith in myself and the work that I put in, that I'm going to succeed. And that's what I want my legacy to be when anybody thinks of me like, man, BK, man, he always brought the best out of me and made me think of myself in the highest form because that was his mantra. Just betting on you, who better to bet on.
That's awesome. And I really appreciate you sharing that. Before we go, I want to say, first of all, thank you again for coming on and joining. I want you to also tell people where they can find you. So I know you mentioned your social media, if that's the best place, just mentioning that again, or if it's a website or somewhere where people who are interested in learning more about you and what you do.
Absolutely. So again, it's Coach BK. I'm at Bet On You BK. It's spelled just like it sounds, BETYOU ONYOU, right? BK. So that's Instagram, Facebook. I'm Britt Kelly. I'm that old, right? So I still got Facebook. But I'm also the athletic director and a PE teacher at Garvey Island STEM Academy. That's my baby now. So if anybody really wants to reach out, anybody want to donate, anybody want to come work with us, we're launching the sports program at this charter school, a minority-ran charter school out in the heart of Moreno Valley, California. Amazing opportunity. Next year will be our inaugural sports season. So this has been my new project, another little purpose in my life to leave a mark of something that's new, fresh, and amazing. So Garvey Island STEM Academy, Moreno Valley, California. Tap in. That's where you can find Coach BK.
Thank you again, and I appreciate you joining today.
I appreciate you. Dope.